Welcome back. I want to talk to you about intros. They are both extremely important and not important at all. Let me explain. Intros are important because if you mess them up, it could really impact the comic set. Intros are not important because the audience doesn't care that much. Unless it's an open mic where you're just reading names off a list, you should ask every comic performing what their exact intro is and spell out their name phonetically, how you would say it, how you would pronounce it. There's no shame in bringing an index card on stage and reading off an intro if it's long and saying the person's name. If it's short, try to memorize it, but keep that index card in your back pocket just so you don't freeze up. You'll always know that it's there. Do not try to improvise a joke based on the comic's intro or credits. Your time as a host to shine is paused for right now. Set the comic up to succeed. Give them a clean intro. Hear me loud and clear on this next point. Never introduce a female comic as a lady comic. Oh, we have this female comic coming to the stage, or anything about their appearance. It doesn't matter if they're Native American or they're gay or they're in a wheelchair, whatever. Unless they've asked you to talk about it, that's a different story. But they're a comic. They're not a trans comic. They're just a comic like everybody else on the show. Let them talk about whatever they want to talk about on stage. Pointing out a comic's differences in the intro that you've just decided to do on your own could really, really mess up the whole thing. It's unprofessional and it could negatively affect their set. If you draw attention to something the comic didn't ask you to, that comic may now feel the need to address it instead of just starting as they would normally start. When I was starting out, a comic who's now a friend of mine, the hilarious John DeCrosta, he's from my hometown. He was back at the club headlining. When I first met him, I told him I was the MC. He immediately handed me a printed out introduction form. Being new, I thought it was kind of rude. Like, what? What is... I understood it later on when I started getting introduced to crowds. In my intro, I always wanted the MC to say that I did stand up at the Adult Video Awards. But more than half the time, they would instead say, this next comic hosted the Adult Video Awards. Now, because I have this crazy thing about being honest, and I didn't want one person in the audience who knew that I didn't host it, that I just did stand up at it, I didn't want them to automatically think I was a liar. I would then start my set by explaining, no, I didn't host. Robert Schimmel was the host one year. Bobby Slayton was the host the first year I did it. And that just derails my set. Do you understand now? I also had somebody at an open mic. They were being playful and friendly because I talk about men and women and gently tease each group. That person introduced me as everybody's favorite misogynist. Do you see, like, the audience is going to automatically judge me for that? I didn't even get a chance to do the material. They're prejudging everything I say through that lens. Now, comics, when you're giving your intro to the host, I'd steer away from trying to include a joke unless it sets up your whole persona. Why risk an MC reading a joke that they're just seeing for the first time, bombing right before you go up? It's not their job to get laughs with your material. Make sense? Don't overdo your credits in the intro. You already got the gig. You're about to show the audience just how funny you are. The audience usually doesn't believe like a feature act's credits, especially if they've never heard of you. And also, credits have been so overblown throughout the years. Remember, this one guy would get introduced as having written for The Tonight Show, when I knew all he was doing was emailing jokes in, and he finally got one on after 3 years. Short and simple. It can be as simple as, ladies and gentlemen, coming to the stage, put your hands together for Rich Williams. My credits they're not going to make or break my set. One more thing for hosts. Don't try to bury a comic when you bring them on stage. I remember years ago I was doing a week at the Stardome in Birmingham, Alabama. The MC kept introducing me as being from New York. The people in Alabama weren't too keen on Yankees at the time, so I would have to deal with that. It's like I was starting from a hole. It felt like sabotage. Try not to do that stuff. Be professional. Set the next comic up to win. You're going to get a lot more work because of it. Thanks for watching this. I hope you stumble across my videos again. Huh? How about that?